Hey, what's up, everybody? Clint here. And I was bored after a stormy day and thought, you know what? I've got a new bike. I've gone through a lot of different tires since the last time I made a bike review slash tire review video. So I thought I would go over some setup tips, some things I have learned about the 2021s. I would say it also would apply to the 2022 StumperJumper Evo, as well as quite a few different tire combos. So this is coming from, I originally had a Trek Slash 9.8. It was a 2019, so it wasn't the newest version. And my local shop, Momentum Cycles, made a switch to Specialized. And so I couldn't decide at first between the Enduro and the Stumpy Evo, but I recently made a big job change and figured I would be a one bike quiver guy for a little while. So I went with the Stumpy Evo because I figured I could get away with more all-around riding than that. Though I'm not really sure. I'm really giving much up to the Enduro. I can't say for sure, but part of the reason why is I'll talk about the first thing I did to modify this bike is I've got this link here is actually a Cascade components link, and the primary reason I bought that was to make the progression a lot more on this bike. The stock link on the Stumpy Evo, I think, is only something like has a 19% progression toward the end. The Cascade takes it up to 26%, and I was just bottoming out way too much for my taste. It might be because I got the S3, and I think it's possible that the shock tune is slightly lighter on the S3 compared to the S4 and S5. But that didn't really work for me because for a mountain biker, I'm a little heavier right now, just under 190. When I bought this bike, I was somewhere around 195, 196. And while the bike felt great 90% of the time, where my home trail is Shepherd Mountain Bike Park, when you start smashing rocks and G-outs really hard on some of the tougher trails there like Cannonball and Powder Keg, I could not get it to be progressive enough. And I wanted to just put a bigger spacer in the shock. Now, this is a 2021 that I got a really good deal on. I got it new, but I got it at the end of 2021, so it was discounted a bit. The Float DPX2 that came on the 2021, the spacer that comes in here, it's the third biggest spacer out of 5 that Fox makes. However, according to Fox's charts, this is a 210 by 55 stroke shock, and it says do not put the next size or the next size up spacer in there. Now, could I have done that and gotten away with it? Yes, because I'm not running max PSI. It probably would have been fine. But I didn't want to do that and risk blowing up a shock. And I also didn't want to pay, $600 for a new shock or a Float X or a Float X2 or even a RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate DH. I think would be a great shock because you can get a Megneg for that. And if you want, you'll never bottom that thing out. So what I did instead is for Christmas, some family pitched in for my present, and we bought a Cascade Link for $270. And when I first put that link on, something I didn't realize about this bike, and this is a hot setup tip, even if you're running the Float X. The new Fox Float X has a better bottom out bumper. It's the same bottom out bumper the Float X2 uses. So I think it's a little better. But I was trying to run this bike and didn't even realize it at like 30% sag after I put that link on there. And I didn't really feel like, I felt like I was bottoming out basically as much as I had been. And I actually felt like the bike was a little harsher in the small stuff. Well, this applies even if you have the stock link. What I have found is this bike performs. It's the opposite of the Slash. The Slash felt better everywhere. It felt more supple. It braked better. It did everything better with at least like 32, 33% sag. You really needed to have over that 30% mark. This bike's the opposite. I have found this bike likes a lot of air pressure and a lot of compression in the rear. It actually feels more supple off the top when you only run 23 to 25% sag. I actually would blast through sort of small hit rock gardens and carry speed much better and not even feel the bumps when I was running like 23% sag, and when I would dial my low speed compression in than when I was at 30% sag with things open. And my theory on why that is that the StumperJumper Evo axle path is actually, if you look at the chart, it doesn't go straight up. It actually has almost like a C-shaped curve. It's slightly rearward in the first, I don't know, third of the stroke, half of the stroke. And a rearward axle path gets out of the way of bumps easier. And so keeping the bike riding high like that really brought this to life. And, you know, I bumped up my pressure so much to keep it up there. Plus with the Cascade Link, which, you know, makes the initial leverage higher, so you need more pressure anyway. Now my bottoming out issue is not really an issue. I mean, I still bottom out maybe a little more than I'd like, but it's really not an issue because I can run so much pressure and still be supple off the top. So that was definitely positive. Another thing I did with this bike, it came with the Fox 36 Performance Elite, which is the Grip 2 damper, just like the factory version, just without the Kashima. But I had this Zeb from my old bike, and I wanted to keep this Zeb Ultimate because I loved it. To me, I had the Fox 36 Performance, just the Grip 1 damper on my Slash, and when I put this Zeb Ultimate on there, it was a massive upgrade. So I wanted to keep this. I had it lowered to 160 to stay within like warranty restrictions. Sold my 36, and man, I'm telling you, I'm 100% a believer on the 38 mil stanchions. Now, I come from motocross background and I'm heavier, so I probably ride with more weight on the front. Plus, the trails that I ride, if you've ever been to Shepherd Mountain or know someone who has, ask them about Powder Keg. Ask them about Cannonball and just the massive solid granite rocks you're plowing into all the way down. That bigger fork is a huge plus. And going from 170 to 160, I can honestly say, as far as performance goes and soaking up bumps, I absolutely cannot tell the difference. Now, I did end up, I had 2 volume spacers in this. It comes with one. And I was never bottoming out. I never really bottomed out on the Slash. I wasn't bottoming out on this. So I went ahead and took one of the spacers out. Ran a little more air pressure, which I had to do to kind of match the shock. It's not sagging as much, so I needed more hold up. Oh, now it's raining on me. Well, let's take this bike inside. I'm going to pause here. No, I'm not, because I'll ruin my video. And I am not willing to take the time to edit. So we're just doing it live to get me out of the rain. My basement's a mess here, so I'm just gonna put this bike over by a window so you don't see the whole messy basement. Okay, we're back. Okay, I'm gonna wipe my camera lens, guys. All right. Anyway. With higher air pressure in the fork and taking a volume spacer out, I'm definitely making the most use of it. I still very, very rarely ever bottom out, but it's good. I don't mind the trash can lid there. The other thing I've actually, I have started dialing in the compression. There's only 4 clicks of high speed on the Zeb Ultimate. So I'm in the middle, 2 clicks. As far as low speed goes, I've now bumped it all the way up to 8 from all the way open. I know everybody says you should go all the way closed and count backwards, but I was running it pretty well wide open before, especially with the other volume spacer in there. And it was just a little too pogo sticky. I wasn't making use of the oil and the controlled feeling. It still felt pretty good, but it was just a little too wild. So I've got that slowed down, and it helps with braking to have some of that oil do the work for you, not just the air spring. So that's where I'm at on that. Don't know what my rebound is right now. I could have told you a while back, but every once in a while I'll go make one-click adjustments depending on how I'm feeling. Seat posts. So Specialized, I know they think the S3 is going to go to smaller riders. I'm 5'9". I am the average height, and it comes with a 150 seat post. I bought a 1-up 180, and look at how much, I could put a 200 in this thing and probably slam it and use all 200. So, I have a friend who is 5'6", 5'7", and he's running a 180, and he was super worried it'd be too long. And nope, he can use all 180, no problem. There's no reason to put a 150 on this bike. Specialized, I think, kind of made a bad choice there, but maybe they're trying to save some money. Only other mod I can think of, other than the fork and just the Cascade Link, I recently tried out these P&W loam grips, and I thought I was an ODI Pro Elite lock-on guy, which I still like those grips a lot, and if that's all I could get, I'd be happy. But man, I've been converted. These P&W loam grips are, they give you sort of that thinner grip feel, but without the thinner grip harshness. They're really good. I never get arm pump ever, even at Shepherd. So that's all good. Now let's talk about tires. So this bike came with the Specialized Eliminator rear butcher front trail casing tire, and I like those quite a bit. I really like that butcher as a front, and I have swapped to the same combo but in grid gravity, which is the only difference other than the obviously thicker casing. These are about 1,300 gram tires, is on the Eliminator. If you look down here, it says T7, T9. T9 is Specialized, softer, grippier, more downhill-oriented rubber. And so on the gravity version of the Eliminator, they use the harder T7 in the middle with the T9 as the side knobs. So you still get a really fast roll speed, but when you start to lean it, it grips a little better. And the difference between that and the trail version is very noticeable, especially when it's kind of wet. Now, surprisingly, as far as traction goes when it's wet, Specialized, they swear that, softness isn't all there is to rubber, and apparently they use a lot of silica to help sort of get the tire through water to the rock or whatever you're gripping. And I can honestly say I don't think that's all marketing. That Eliminator continues to surprise me with how well it grabs. Now, it doesn't hook up. If I had a butcher on the back as well, yeah, it would definitely be a more locked in feel. 100%, have no doubt about that. There's a few places where when it's loose and you start to lean into a corner where it'll drift a little bit before, but it always catches. Once those side knobs engage, it's pretty stinking solid. Now, I'm comparing this to, I've been through a lot of tires in recent times. The last time I did a video, I was on the Slash. I had like a Trail Boss rear, Vigilante front. You can go watch that video. So before I got this bike, on my old bike, I have run on the rear. I've tried the Maxxis Dissector in downhill casing and max grip. I also ran the Kenda Pinner. I have ran a Vittoria Martello, as well as the Vittoria Mazza on the rear. And at other points in time, I have run a Vittoria Mazza front, as well as the Maxxis Assegai in downhill casing max grip up front as well. So I want to talk about those specifically. Now I'm going to save the Mazzas for last because I've run that front and rear. So on the rear, let's start with the Maxxis Dissector and downhill casing. That tire rolls really fast. That soft rubber really, if you've got a lot of rock, like solid rock slabs, it conforms, it sticks to it really well for about 1 to 3 runs, and then it turns into an absolute piece of garbage. I don't even have it in my basement. I threw away a bunch of tires a while back. But the Maxxis Dissector, the side knobs on it, they are not anywhere near as beefy as these. They're small. And if you've got max grip, which is Maxxis is just really soft rubber, it's like 42A, they lose their support. They start folding over, ripping. And I kid you not, on that tire, I would go into perfect, almost perfect dirt berms with no brakes, and my back end would break loose and almost kill me over and over. I would never buy that tire again. Now, the Kenda Pinner, definitely longer life than a Dissector. Definitely doesn't roll quite as fast, but has a really nice feel to it. You could run Kenda Pinners front and rear. The rubber's pretty soft. The side knobs are good. It's got a nice transition between. It rolls pretty well. Like, it is a really solid all-around tire. If I had a tire sponsor and Kenda was my tire sponsor and I had fresh pinners all the time, I'd be totally happy. I'm coming out here for a reason. I would not be sad about that at all. But the one thing the Pinner did, and here I have it out here, is you see that right there? Now, to be fair, Shepherd Mountain is a destroyer of tires. Okay, it's really tough on tires in my messy basement. Really tough on tires, but that's the only one I had rip like that. The other thing about the Pinners is the sidewalls. After you ride them for a while and they break down a little bit, be ready to add more sealant because the sidewalls start weeping sealant. Now, when you add more, it does reseal and you're good, but just be prepared on those Kendas that after they stretch a little bit, they are porous. So I'm probably not going to pay money and buy any more Kenda Pinners. Now, front tire, we'll go with the Maxxis Assegai, which is kind of the one that it's like the golden child right now. Everybody loves it. And it was a great tire. I've got it, still has some life left in it. I keep it as a backup. But, and on rock slabs, big chunky rock slabs, things like that, can't go wrong. You know, the grip on wet rock, amazing. But I don't think it was like the 100% best at everything tire. If you look at this front tire, now this is something I hated on the DHF because I thought the channel was too big. But you can see here between the outer knobs and the center, there's an unbroken channel. There's always a gap. You know, the tightest point right there is, you know, about a fingertip wide. Now, that's a narrow enough gap that you start leaning the tire, those side knobs get engaged before the center knobs start letting go. So you don't feel like there's a drifty gap. Kind of like the DHF had a very on-off feeling, and I did not like the DHF. Well, the Assegai has little transition knobs, so you never feel a sort of an on-off there. But what you're trading is, if you've got some flat turns with some decent dirt where you can really just lay the bike over and it's kind of loose and you really need those side knobs to grab, that little transition knob can kind of disrupt the hold. And I've actually felt the Assegai push in those kind of flat, looser turns a little more than this tire. And that, like I said, that 42A rubber, I mean, where I ride, even front tires get worn out. And I just think for the money, you know, it's a little tough. Now, if I had if Maxxis was a tire sponsor and they sent me, you know, 5, let's say I could get 5 free front tires every year and 5 free rears, I'd be totally happy with Maxxis. I'd run that thing up front all year long, swap it out, you know, while it's still good, maybe throw it on the rear for a while. I don't know, get a DHR2 sets for the rear for Shepherd. You know, I don't know. I would try to get Max Terra for the rear just because I know the rear max grip, it's going to be amazing the first couple days, and then it just gets shredded. So on a budget, it's really tough for me to go Maxxis max grip tires when, you know, this specialized rubber, it is a harder durometer, but like I said, durometer is not everything. And I can honestly say, I don't feel like I'm giving up anything with this Butcher compared to the Assegai. I really don't. Even though this is a 2.3, it's basically the exact same as a Maxxis 2.5. It rolls a little faster, and I think when you get it on edge, it just stays a little more positive. Now, the other tires that I love, Vittoria Mazzas, particularly in the Enduro casing. I probably would have bought a set. I actually bought an Eliminator Butcher combo just like this for the Big Mountain Enduro in May. I tried to get some Vittoria Mazzas I was going to go back to because I think they're the most amazing cornering tires that are out there right now. They roll really fast for how aggressive they are. I mean, I think they roll probably just as fast as this Eliminator does, and that's saying something. And what I really love about them, I think that graphene, it's no joke. The tread lasts. The life of the tread is so much better than any of the other tires I've had, by far. The center tread is like, it seems like it's indestructible. And even the side knobs, they just last a lot longer. They hold on off camber. You know, maybe on the wet, they're not quite as grippy as a Maxxis max grip tire is going to be. But if you ride them for, you know, a couple weeks at somewhere like Shepherd Mountain, after that, they're going to be grippier than that Maxxis max grip because they're not going to be folding over and shredded and all that kind of stuff. Now, the one issue I had with the Vittorias, and I'm willing to give them another shot because the spot where I flatted the rear is a spot that like 5 other people have also flatted, and I went and found this super pointy triangle rock that I don't think any tire would have survived. But their layup for their enduro casings is it's a dual 120 TPI instead of 60. And I was, you know, for a front tire, that's fine. But man, I was nervous about running those for the BME. I just don't know if it's enough sidewall protection for a rear. Like I said, front's fine. I don't know about the rear. After I completely wear out everything I own right now, I will probably go back to Vittoria Mazza's front and rear just because they just do everything well. They might not be the best at any one thing, but I feel like no matter what the situation is, if I need to pedal and I need something that's not going to drag and be slow, if I need to corner on wet rock, if I need something that brakes well, I mean, I just think for an all-round, you know, I don't know what the conditions are going to be, tire, they're hard to beat. But I couldn't find them. They're out of stock. And I've been doing pretty good on this Eliminator Butcher combo, so I just went with that. Okay, last thing, setup. So this bike can be set up in 6 different configurations. When I got it and I rode it stock, it felt just a little bit too much on the trail side compared to enduro side with the high bottom bracket setting, which effectively with that setting, you're basically changing your chainstay length by like 5 mils or something like that by flipping this chip. And when you lengthen it, it lowers the bottom bracket. So it came in the high setting here with the stock head cup, the neutral, which is what I have in there now. Now, I switched it to, this comes with an angle set that just goes in the top. It's really well thought out. It's really easy to change. And I did -1, slackened it out a degree, kept it in the high setting, which brought my head angle to 63.5 degrees. And because I slackened it out, it did lower the bottom bracket a little bit. And I ran that for a while, was super happy with it. Doing the head cup actually steepens the seat tube angle because it lowers the front end. Because basically you're moving your front axle out this way, so the whole fork, you know, you're not just changing it at the bottom bracket. The whole fork literally angles like that. So shortens the reach, steepens the seat tube. And I ran it like that for a long time. It was pretty good, but I just started feeling like I was pushing the front end a little bit more than I wanted. I didn't have the nice positive feel in my hands where I really could feel that front tire and what it was doing. So what I did is I went back to the neutral head cup, but moved it to the low position. All right, so my wheelbase length just slightly shorter than it was in the negative high configuration. Bottom bracket did drop like 5 mils. But what I actually, and that's a concern where I ride, you know, there's a lot of big chunk. Sometimes you got to pedal. Too low of a bottom bracket can be a killer. But I've started running so little sag in my shock and enough compression that when I pedal, my bottom bracket stays higher up than it probably did before when I was running more sag and less compression. So I'm able to get away with that without suffering a bottom bracket that's too low. And that brings my head angle to like right at 64 degrees. It's nice and comfy. It's still plenty slack, but I just have a better positive front end feel. So that's it. You know, throw your tire questions or setup questions in the comments. I just do this for fun. I know it's like poor video quality, but hey, I mean, I'm just telling you like it is. You want to know who I am? This is my face. Not much to look at, but it was raining and I don't want to do a ton of editing on this video. So yeah, hope the folks that watch the Slash video appreciate the honest review. I love this bike. Came with 200 mil rotors and code brakes. I mean, front brake is super powerful on this thing. It's race ready. I should also mention I do run Vittoria airliner inserts front and rear. I have to run at Shepherd Mountain at least 30 PSI and an insert in the rear, or I will ding a rim every time. I will get a flat spot. I have one tiny one in there, but the wheel's still straight and true. No biggie. Not even worried about that one. And yeah, hopefully I'll have in the near future more of a, forgive me, but a downcountry bike for some longer races I'm going to do later in the year.